The following is a conversation with Mollie Hughes, a British alpinist, world record holder, company director, entrepreneur, and just generally very nice person and a good friend. I've recorded this intro a couple times and I'm kind of struggling to do Mollie justice because she's done so many unbelievable things. In no particular order, she broke the world record for becoming the youngest woman to climb both sides of Mount Everest and also became the youngest woman to ski solo to the South Pole. And now she's building an amazing adventure business and going around the world talking about her endeavours and is writing a book. Mollie's an amazing person. And I thoroughly enjoyed the 1.5 hours we spent together talking all about her amazing feats. We spoke about the journey to and from the amazing things that she's done and the mental strength, resilience and fortitude required to get through these kind of crazy and immense feats. This podcast will appeal to anybody and everybody. It's very easy to listen to Mollie speak and you can kind of get a sense for what it takes to summit Everest and go to the South Pole. This is Inside Matters. My name is Dr. James McElroy. I hope you enjoy it. How did you get interested in these crazy things?
Yeah, so I grew up in South Devon, so right on the bottom of England, probably as far from any mountains as you get in the UK. So mountaineering wasn't on my radar at all.
It's sunnier?
It's sunnier for sure, and it's outdoorsy, it's by the coast, so I loved everything to do with that. I started surfing when I was a teenager, started a bit of hiking on Dartmoor and stuff. But it wasn't until I was 17. When I was 17, my school was organising this expedition to go to Kenya, East Africa. And now I went to a school that was like huge, big, rough, comprehensive. So this kind of opportunity that came to us was completely out of anyone's mind. It kind of blew my mind and I knew I needed to go. So we worked away to raise the money, backpacking in supermarkets, car boot sales.
Sorry, my coffee's quite spicy because a certain
cayenne-y.
person has put some cayenne pepper in it. So keep going.
I'm glad I avoided that. So in the end, it raised all the money to head off to Kenya, went to Kenya, did a bit of charity work, a bit of safari, and then had the chance at the end of the trip to climb Mount Kenya, which was stunning. We got to just over 5,000 metres.
Wow.
My first bit of altitude at the age of 17. And I was hooked. Like the clouds were swirling around us. You could see the savannah thousands of metres down below. And I knew that this experience of altitude, which I actually really enjoyed. I enjoyed how it felt on my body. And I felt like I could do it. Like I was with maybe, 15, 16 classmates. And I just felt like they might have been struggling, having headaches, but I just was loving the whole experience.
Did you have any symptoms or signs of...
Not that first time. I mean, altitude is something that's come and gone through altitude sickness throughout my life, but not that time. So yeah, it really instilled something in me that I want to travel and see the world, but to do it through climbing mountains.
And what happened next?
So after that, I carried on at school, went to university, and I just kind of got into a pattern of being at school or uni in the term time, saving up money, having part-time jobs, and then you get those big summers, don't you, at uni? Well, you probably didn't if you're in med school, but...
We still got good summers, yeah.
So you have that time, and I would have worked hard in the year and got my money together and gone off on trips in the summer. So that the year after Kenya, I went to the Himalayas and joined an expedition to do a bit of climbing in the Ladakh region of India. The year after that, I went to...
Did you see one of the big mountains at that time?
We saw the Karakoram range, so the range where K2 is, really far in the distance. And that was, mind-blowing.
That stimulates something in you going, I maybe want to climb one of them one day?
Not yet. Like awe and wonder were there.
Right.
And when we flew into Leh, which is just an amazing flight, and just the Himalayas just there, just like white peak mountains in every direction. It was definitely absolute awe and wonder. But it was so different. Like I was like a small town girl from this place in Devon, just getting my mind blown by different places. And then the year after it was South America. And also that summer we squeezed in a trip to Morocco and climbed Jebel Toubkal, which is an awesome climb, which you should do one day for sure.
I'd love to,
You'd love it.
Is this the one where you can go from like lying on a beach
in
maybe part of the day and then...
Not quite. 4 or 5 days.
Okay,
you can get yourself
it's
up
not.
there.
Maybe that's some other place I'm thinking about.
I think it's like 4,000 metres, around 4,000 metres.
Okay, it's a big one then.
Yeah. But it's cool. and snowy in winter, but like warm in the summer.
Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
Yeah.
Now, none of this is, hopefully you don't take this the wrong way, like
Yeah.
extreme activity. Right? I mean, it's like, it's hard, right?
Yeah,
but
for sure.
but you went on to do a lot of extreme stuff. So had the extreme gene started to express itself in your body at that time? Like, were you going, I need more, like, I need to do crazy stuff?
Not yet, no. And I don't know if what is the point where I did? No, I do know the point where I did.
But we're going to get to that, so maybe you can just...
So it was just this wanting to travel, see different parts of the world, climb mountains when we were there, went to East Africa again, did Kilimanjaro with some friends, and spent 3 weeks on the beaches. But that kind of switch happened when I was at uni. So I was studying Bristol, studying sports. The degree was called Psychology with Sports Biology. So it's kind of half psychology, half sports biology.
Cool.
And then it kind of ended coming together with sports psychology was what I kind of did my dissertation in. And I wrote my dissertation all about the psychology of Everest climbers. So that's kind of when that kind of switch happened. And for like various reasons I did it, I knew I wanted to write about something interesting for me to sit down. I'm pretty dyslexic, so the idea of sitting down and writing 10,000 words at the time, I knew it had to be interesting. My classmates were doing all sorts of studies that just weren't interesting to me. I knew it had to really grab me. And I found 7 guys around the UK. I was really searching for female climbers, but I couldn't really get hold of anyone. So I found 7 guys, travelled around, went to the Lake District, went to London, and sat down with these guys, interviewed them, explored their ability to control fear on the mountain, their motivation for actually going to Everest in the first place, the psychological pressure they faced, sat down at base camp and this huge obstacle just in front of them. And I was hooked on Everest within the first interview with this guy, Scott, in his big posh office in London.
So was he a professional mountaineer or was he just like...
He was a professional business type, but he'd
really?
done Everest a few years before. Yeah.
Interesting.
And just the way he explained the Western Combe and climbing the Lhotse face and taking this kind of fine a few steps up towards the top. I was like, okay, something switched in me and I was like, okay, at some point in my life, I need to experience this in some sort of way.
What were the common traits that you, like, what did you find in your research?
So it was very much an undergrad project. And it was a long time ago now.
Right.
But it was a qualitative study. So I was looking at the different aspects and where I could find similarities and differences. And I kind of came up with 4 themes that ran through them all. And the first one that really jumped out at me and still kind of holds true is talking about the allure of Everest. So Everest is simply a big lump of rock. And on top there's snow and different levels of snow. But it holds this incredible kind of deep-seated allure over all sorts of people. People that are never, ever going to see it. People that are never, ever going to step foot on it. People that maybe done a tiny bit of climbing and want to have it in their head, but they're never going to get there. Or people that actually make it happen and want to get there. So it really kind of entices people, and because of its history, because it's so famous, it's the highest mountain in the world. So that was something that really, everyone had to be grabbed by this allure in one way or another.
And it's something you felt as well, right?
Yeah, as soon as I spoke to this first guy, it grabbed me, absolutely. And
I feel that a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But of course I wouldn't because I'm not allowed to based on the Keyman insurance at Internet.
That sounds sensible, for sure.
So this sparked this interest, if you like. Yeah. We're going to speak about your latest book, which is currently in the works as we progress through the podcast. But are any, like, just to try and pull it all together, or any of the themes that you were researching at the very start during your dissertation coming through now in your research?
Yeah, definitely. There's the one about, well, there's a few. There's like controlling fear. It's a really interesting thing, and what fear actually is, and that it is just a innate emotion that's been passed down to us from our earliest ancestors. And actually, these days it works in overdrive. We don't need it to do all the things that we needed to do when we were out hunter-gathering, having all these threats around us. So working out ways to control that is really interesting. And the part's about self-belief as well. So I think that's what I drew from these 7 guys I interviewed. They might not have been super in your face. They weren't these big, confident people. But they all, deep down inside of them, knew they could succeed.
Wow.
If things played into... If everything else kind of worked, they knew deep down they could do it. And that is a huge thing. And I knew somehow I had that self-belief that I could do it, even though I was 21 at the time. And it was my first 8,000 meter peak. But I always had this deep down feeling that I could could do it and could achieve it if everything else kind of played ball.
Why at that time were there maybe less female Everest summiters than men?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably still the case. I actually don't know the stats, so I shouldn't guess at them. But from kind of the feeling of being on the mountain, it always feels like there's maybe about 10% women.
Wow.
To 90% men.
Wow.
Of people going for it.
But some of the best alpinists now are women,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Crazy feats.
Great people doing some really good stuff recently. But yeah, definitely in the minority.
Mm-hmm. So bringing it back then to what happened next, like what was the road to Everest?
Yeah.
Your first crazy...
It was quick for me, and it all worked out, luckily. But I was young and kind of going for it. So I finished uni in maybe the summer, May, June, and I had kind of 3 main tasks to do before I could leave for Everest the following April. Because the season you climb is April and May.
Well, so you decided that
I decided that was the time I wanted to go.
you're going to do it?
Yeah, I was going to be age 21. And it was the time I needed to go. So I had to train.
Yep.
I had to get super fitter than I'd been in my whole life. I did a little sport growing up at uni. I was part of the netball team. That was probably more drinking than training.
Sure.
But that probably helped as well.
Sure.
So I had to get super fit. So I went to the uni gym and I met the strength and conditioning coach. I was like, I need help. And he was amazing. He just helped me out, dedicated program. So he got me strong and super fit. The next one was to increase my mountaineering experience.
One element on the fitness then, like what does the program look like for someone who needs to get fit for Everest?
It's differed throughout the years, and as I've gone back to Everest or climbed or done other stuff in Antarctica, so it's always differed. Then it was a lot of strength and conditioning. So it was...
get stronger.
Get stronger, absolutely. Every part of my body needed to be strong for carrying a heavy rucksack, for that really slow movement. You take one step and all of your weight goes through that step and you take another step. Cardiovascularly, everything needed to be on point. I was up there where there's such little oxygen up there that life can't be sustained for long. A lot of anaerobic threshold training we did, so lots of big sprints on treadmills and bikes and stuff. Yeah, it was good.
Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed the process of training, and it's good if you have a target. So I do my best training and hit my best fitness when I have a target that I need to, because I knew every time I didn't turn up for a session that I was going to regret that on Everest.
And the sort of dates that you go, are there particular times in the year where it's best to climb Everest?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's busier.
It's the only time it's climbed, really, is April and May. There's sometimes a small window in the autumn, but not many people climb there. So for most of the year, the summit of Everest is hit by the jet stream. So it's buffered by the jet stream. The winds could be 100 miles an hour, whatever. So
Having been on Ben Chauncey this weekend at 60.
Okay, yeah. So nobody goes up there.
No,
nobody goes
too
near
strong.
it. Yeah, you'll be blown off.
Yeah, too strong.
So
that's fascinating.
When the monsoon season starts to kind of brew in the valleys of the Himalayas, it somehow pushes, again, I'm not really sure of the details, but it pushes the jet stream just off the top. So for maybe a couple of weeks, if you're lucky, around the end of May, the jet stream lifts a bit off the summit and the winds die down. And when they die down to 20 miles an hour or less, if you're lucky, you've got your chance to get up there. So you spend April, the first part of May, acclimatizing. So on the lower slopes, getting your body used to the altitude. And then you wait, you sit tight at base camp and you wait for that jet stream to lift, for the winds to die down. And you see it on the weather forecasting and then you go for it and you make your attempt.
Wow. Okay, so I've got so many questions. I don't even know where to start. Can we fast forward to so I'm assuming the training went well.
Training went well.
Yeah, I just want to jump right in now to like how heavy is the pack? How do you go to the toilet?
Control it, James. Control it. So I guess the other really important thing with the training and the prep was to increase my mountaineering experience. So I headed off to the Alps, had a guide there, trained as much as I could. That autumn I went to the Himalayas and I was climbing on a different mountain, training on that. So that kind of got me up. I wasn't the most experienced mountaineer in the world. I was 21 years old from Devon, but I climbed enough and spent a lot of time at altitude over the last 4 or 5 years. Then the hardest thing I had to do was raise the money.
The money, yeah.
So
how much do you need to raise?
So it's 2012 I was there the first time. So then I needed about 35 grand.
It's a lot of money.
But these days it'd be even more.
What's that for? Is for
everything.
Guides?
A big chunk goes to the Nepalese government as for your permits. So maybe about $11,000. And then it's all the setup on the mountain, your Sherpa guides, it's the base camp setup, all the food, all the tents, all the extra equipment that's kind of not personal stuff.
I'm jumping way ahead again. I'm going to stop myself. But there's this sort of notion at the moment that if you've got tons of money, you can do Everest easily with lots of Sherpa support. Is that a load of nonsense? Because it's such a big mountain. Like,
yeah. It's it's an interesting one. I think you can make it easier for yourself. You can absolutely make it easier for yourself with more money. You can buy more Sherpa support. You can not carry a thing. You can have more oxygen. So you have your bottled oxygen and you can have it on a crazy high flow rate from the bottom to the top of the mountain. Okay. You can probably train better, have a hypoxic tent at home to sleep in. There's all sorts you can do. So you can make it easier for yourself. But the thing about that mountain is you still got to put one foot in front of the other day after day after day, and you've got to suffer every single day. So it will never, ever be easy, but you can make things easier with a bit of money for sure.
Good to know. Now, on the money side of things, how did you raise your money?
It is unbelievably hard.
Raising money is hard.
So,
just for the listener to know.
Yeah, and it takes
it's never easy.
And I didn't, what I wanted to achieve was corporate sponsorship. So to get a company on board who could put their logos all over my down suit, all over my backpack, I could then go in and talk to them afterwards, PR opportunities. But again, I was 20 at the time, knew nothing about PR or marketing. So I created this massive proposal. It was probably 40 pages long of me just blathering on about what I thought I could offer a company and talking about the history of Everest. And it was far too much. But every week I'd send it out to 30 or 40 different companies.
Good for you.
And every week get 30 or 40 rejections or just not hit back.
Happens.
Yeah, and that went on and on and on for months and months and months. And a lot of people told me that with these kind of trips, funding comes through right at the last moment. So if you can hold on until that last moment, then you've got more of a chance. I think you've built a bit of noise around your expedition, and people kind of take note. So I kind of held on to the last moment with keeping the training, keeping the other climbs. And then, it kind of came in right at the last moment.
Wow. One company came and funded
a few different ones. So I kind of pieced it together. One was a charity, one was a lawyer firm. Pieced it all together.
Some of the things I've spoken about a lot on this podcast relate to if you believe in something and you want something enough, serendipity does just run its course and somehow it just happens.
Yeah, for sure. And
the universe sort of coalesces around you.
If you persevere enough, I think.
It happens.
And if you don't give up, because it's so easy to have all that rejection, constant rejection. You think, this isn't worth it. Nobody believes in it.
Must have been a good day for you.
Yeah,
when all the money was secured.
And then I had to book my flights, buy my kit.
Wow.
Think, oh shit, I've got to go.
So on the kit then, what kit does one require for Everest? How does it differ to, your Scottish Munro bagging kit, for example?
So you need a big down suit, which you wouldn't want to wear in Scotland.
Too hot.
Too hot. And it's down feathers. So it's good for really kind of cold, dry environments like the Himalayas. So it's like a sleeping bag with arms and legs and a hood.
And you just wear base layers under that? Or
base layers and then maybe a thin mid layer.
That's it?
Yeah.
And you're warm enough?
Yeah, about minus 30, minus 35.
Wow.
With kind of constant movement.
And boots are special warm boots?
Huge boots, double layered, inner boot and an outer boot. 2 massive sleeping bags, having at different levels. All sorts of personal kit. Yeah, thousands of pounds. So a lot of the sponsorship had to be pushed into that as well.
The kit. And also, how do you choose the right Sherpa team? There's lots of people who take people up professionally.
Yeah. So Everest is kind of a commercial operation, and there's various teams running trips every single year on the north side and the south side. I was climbing the south side the first time in 2012. And I kind of went to all the British teams that I knew, the British guys that I knew of, and asked if they'd take me on. And one guy agreed to it, so I joined his team. And he's called Kenton Cool, and he's one of the most famous Everest guys. He's climbed it, I don't even know now, 12, 13, 14 times or more.
Wow.
So I joined his team, and then his extended team have all the Sherpas that he's used for every single climb. So I was kind of amalgamated into that team, and it was, I think, probably the best team on the mountain.
Wow. How do you know if you've got the best team for the expedition? It's experience?
Yeah, or just ego maybe.
So they were like, we're absolutely doing it. We're going to smash it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the team I joined, in the end, you're all together, and in the end on the summit night, you're just kind of a one-on-one with your Sherpa guide. And my Sherpa guide was a guy called Lakpa Onju Sherpa, who I'd climbed with a few months before in another place in the Himalayas, and he was amazing. I think he was maybe 28 when we climbed together first time. He'd already climbed like 8 times.
Wow.
Super humble, super down to earth.
Amazing.
And just so on it.
They're just mountain goats.
Yeah, absolutely. And just wired differently, but in an incredibly humble way.
That's amazing. Are you still in touch with this gentleman?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
We did the North Side together as well. So I went back for the North Side 2017, and he joined me there, and I've climbed with him in a few other places.
That's fantastic.
And yeah.
Now, we'll get to 2017, but
Okay.
tell us about your first climb then of Everest. Like, how did it feel? The mindset?
Yeah.
What it's like? You mentioned one foot in front of the other.
Yep. So it's 2 months you're on the mountain for, about 6, 7, 8 weeks. The first big section you're acclimatizing. So you've got base camp set up at the bottom, which is a big kind of tented village, teams from all over the world based there for their chance to get to the top of the world, if they're lucky enough. You spend the first 6 weeks acclimatizing, so you'll go from base camp to camp 1. You might just touch camp 1. You'll come back to base camp, rest, recover for a few days, let your body get used to it. Then you might go up to camp 1 and spend the night there. And then the following day, you might push a little bit further through the Western Cwm, and then you come back and you'll rest, you'll recover. You'll then go all the way up to maybe to camp 2, spend a night or 2 there, come all the way back,
Wow.
rest for a few days. Then the kind of final bit is touching camp 3. So camp 3 on the south side is about 7,100 meters. And it's not really thought that the human body can acclimatize much past that.
Yeah, because the oxygen content's so low.
So low, yeah. And our bodies, just can't. You're always making gains as you go up, but above that, you're kind of just, everything's just kind of dying.
And are you on
dying a
oxygen
little
at
bit.
that point?
Not then. So you want to get up, you want to hit that camp, probably not spend the night, but kind of touch it, have a little breather there, and then get down as fast as you can, back to base camp. And that's where you're waiting for the weather window. So you're resting and recovering at base camp and waiting for that.
And then when you've got a weather window, it's all systems go.
It's all go. And it takes a good few days to retrace all those steps to camp 3, spend a night at camp 3, and then you push up to the South Col, which on the south side is 7,950 meters. So you're high, but you're just shy of the death zone. And have you heard of the death zone before?
I have, but for the listener,
What are
we talking about?
So the death zone is that area above 8,000 meters. So the summit of Everest being 8,848 meters above sea level.
So basically, it's a Monroe on top of the death zone.
Yeah, so a good almost 900 meters. And in this place called the death zone, and it's a phrase used by climbers and people to talk about this area where there's such little available oxygen that no life can survive for long. Your body's really rapidly deteriorating on itself. You could say it's dying on itself if you wanted to, but everything's slowing down and everything takes a long time.
Yep.
So melting snow and ice for drinking water at the South Col camp and takes, a couple of hours. Putting your boots on takes 20 minutes or so.
Because you're just fatigued or?
Just slow.
Even with oxygen?
So you do have oxygen as you come up through it, but a really small kind of flow rate. Everything is slow.
How are the Sherpas at this point? Are they still rocking and rolling because they're used to it, or are they still? Yeah,
a little bit better. I think they would be. Lakpa was on bottled oxygen then as well. I think again a small flow rate, but it's all about getting yourself in the best possible position for the following day, which is a summit attempt. So you want to be as ready as you possibly can be for that day because that's the biggest day of your life.
So you have one day at the death zone.
So that camp, the South Col, you actually not long, just a few hours. So I think we got there maybe 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And then we rested, melted snow, drank to rehydrate, cooked food, tried to eat, but your appetite is so suppressed by the altitude.
Yeah.
You're psyching yourself up. And then 8 p.m. was the time we left. So 4 hours. 4 hours to get ready for the hardest night of your life.
Now, tell us about the hardest night. Why is it so hard? Because the oxygen is cold.
Yeah. So imagine you've got your down suit on, your massive boots, your gloves, your hood's up, your goggles are probably on your head, ready for sunrise, and you kind of begin out of that initial camp. It feels like a long time ago now, but I'm trying to put myself back into where I was. And you clip into the first ropes, and you kind of begin taking steps up and up and up. You get into the death zone quite quickly, and with each step, your body just kind of screams at you that it needs more oxygen. And that thought of, I should turn around, I should get lower, my body needs to be lower, it's there the whole time. And it's pitch black because it's nighttime, so you're just following the kind of beam of your head torch.
The voices are in your head saying, stop, turn
For sure.
around, you might die.
For sure. So I think your body is close to its kind of physical limit. At least mine definitely was. But it's keeping your body that tiny, your mind that tiny bit stronger. Just kind of will it and let your body know it can do it.
So was there a constant dialogue in your head, like, "Come on,
Yeah,
you can do it"? What were you saying to yourself? Just, you've come so far, and
and it took so much to get to that point, like with all the
Right.
training and all this,
Right.
the hell of getting all the sponsorships together and everyone kind of believing in me being there, and also this want to do it. And I think with all of that dialogue, like I think a deep down under it all belief that I could do it if I could. It's about withstanding suffering, and if you can withstand suffering for the whole 2 months and that whole night, then you can get it, because it will end at some point.
the hardest part then is the night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Is that like ubiquitous? All the climbers say, "Gosh, that last night is hard."
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, mostly because of the altitude. So you push on, and throughout all the darkness, and then around maybe 4 a.m.-ish, it suddenly starts to get light. And it's not like a snap into sunrise, it's the darkness slowly starts to clear.
Wow.
And as it does, you can kind of make out the route that you're on. You look down, and that's when you see the Himalayas for the first time, because everything's shrouded in darkness during the night. Nothing to really tell you you're heading to the top of the world.
Wow.
Nothing to tell you you're on Everest, and you're so in your head with your oxygen mask on, you can't communicate. You could be anywhere. But as soon as that light starts to come, and the Himalayas just kind of appear, and you're on that kind of final ridge. And I remember kind of looking down, and Nepal just being sprawled out beneath me, just mountains as far as you can see.
Wow.
And then on my right-hand side, Tibet, as far as you can see, these kind of white peak mountains.
Amazing.
Pushed on, you're on the ridge, then you get to the bottom of the Hillary Step on the south side.
Heard of this? Yeah.
And this is kind of like the crux of the summit day. So it's a big rocky section that you've got to climb. We got up and over it with a bit of a struggle, like any kind of climbing over a rock at 8,800 meters is so hard.
Do you have to like dig your feet in with the
Yeah,
crampons?
there's a bit of a
and
balancing act, and there's a big lump of rock to get over, which is actually...
do you have a huge drop below? Is it scary?
Yeah.
Oh,
like
yeah.
2,000 meters around you.
Oh, really?
Drop, yeah.
Is it just that exposed?
Yeah, it's horrific. Horrific.
Don't fancy it so much now.
I don't blame you. Wouldn't want to go back. And then you're on the final ridgeline, and the sun, by the time I got there, the sun was up, and we took the final few steps up, and at 8 a.m, me and Lakpa reached the top.
Wow.
So 12 hours of climbing from the South
Wow.
Col to the top.
How long did you stay at the top for?
Not long.
Just like a
10
minute?
minutes the first time.
And then
yeah.
that's it, you got to move.
We got to get down, yeah.
How many other groups were climbing at the time? Can you remember?
So the south side is busy, so it's the Nepalese side. And that year I was there, 2012, was the first year that started to be overcrowding.
Right.
Because people see it a lot these days, and it's in the media a lot, but that year, 2012, was the first year. And I think there was a picture that year on the front page of the Daily Mail.
Of the line.
Of the line.
That was the
Going
line.
up the
That was
Lhotse
the
face.
line year.
That was
I've seen
that was the first line, yeah.
Wow.
So I think I've been on the front page of the Daily Mail. Just for like 200 other climbers going up.
That's crazy. Is it not quite scary knowing that there's such a long line of people behind you?
Yeah. So we...
Who decides who goes first?
You got to go for it. And so we left the South Col at 8 p.m. because we knew it was busy. It felt busy. Usually you'd leave the South Col maybe at 9, 10. So we wanted to get ahead of everyone, get up there, get it done. And we did. We got up there before most people, but we actually met them all on the way down. And I met a lot of them on the Hillary Step, and it was super hard to get down past them. And then there's
So how'd you do that? Because people, they must be a bit annoyed, like we're trying to get up and get to our summit, we're all
and
tired.
everyone's kind of zoned in
It's
on
dangerous.
themselves.
Yeah.
Like if you imagine you've got your goggles on, your oxygen mask, your hood up, communication's so hard, everything is focused on breathing and slowly moving. So everyone's kind of a little bit zombie-like in a way, trying to get up. And we have that desperation of needing to get down. We've only got enough bottled oxygen in our bags, and we've stashed a bit along the route, but we had to reach it. And our time was kind of drawing slower and slower. And me and Lakpa had a bit of an issue on the Hillary Step, getting down past them. I think we were in the end stuck on it for maybe 40, 45 minutes. They've kind of been in this one place.
Just because you're trying to navigate around other people.
Yeah, and they were coming up the crux, so the big rock section to come up, and they couldn't really see us around the corner, and we kept having to look around to get past them, but they were just coming and coming and coming.
Did you feel scared?
Yeah, everything's kind of slightly numbed by the lack of oxygen and that kind of hypoxic state you're kind of getting into. After a while, I kind of knew something was up with me because I started to feel kind of dizzy and even more like I wasn't really there. And at that point, I remember kind of like tapping Lakpa on the shoulder and being like, I think something's wrong. And he checks the gauge, the kind of gauges on my oxygen bottle, And I see this kind of like panic flicker across his face. And I think, oh shit, okay, my oxygen's run out. We've been stood here for far too long. Our next kind of stashed oxygen is further down the route. But at that point, after we'd
How'd you run out?
Yeah. And I don't know how long I'd been stood there without breathing bottled oxygen either. Because when you're stood still, you can, you don't die. Like, there's oxygen in the air. And the oxygen we're breathing is a mixture of bottled oxygen and ambient air anyway.
Okay.
So you are a little bit acclimatized.
What did he do?
He just went into complete gear and just shouted at everyone to just stop coming up and got me down the Hillary step, down that section. I think I slid down the main rock on my bum at that point. Pulled me along to the kind of along the ridgeline, and I remember just sitting me in this kind of snowy corner and pulled out, I think he was carrying 2 oxygen bottles, and he pulled out one from his backpack and put on my mask. And within literally a couple of minutes of breathing it, I started to feel much better.
Wow.
And then we kind of regained ourselves and then continued along past all these people as much as we could. But yeah, I was helpless at the point
now,
without him.
People think of Everest, they think there's like, this is going to sound really horrible, but landmarks which are people.
Yeah.
Is that a thing still?
More on the north side.
Right.
So people die up there every single year. The
South side's less dangerous?
I'm not sure on death rate these days, actually, because the south side is so busy. There's more bodies left on the north side, because on the south side it's a little bit easier to bring people down.
Right.
The north side is harder for sure. It's more technical. And if you die quite high up, it's really hard to get bodies down.
Right.
So there's more of those kind of landmarks.
Oh, that's so hard to...
on the north side, for sure.
Yeah. So that kind of brings us to you coming down then and celebrating.
Yeah.
And you felt amazing.
No, it felt really rough. Really rough.
Part of you felt amazing, maybe.
I was a mess.
You were sick.
I was a mess. We got back to the South Col. I had a bit of frostbite on this little finger.
Right.
It was just all went super pale, so white, and a little bit here. And I think from being on the Hillary step, not breathing oxygen for too long, and just being stood still, not much blood pumping around my body.
Wow.
I had a little bit on my cheeks. I have these quite big chubby cheeks, and they always get it. And I also, it was quite rough. The north side was a better expedition, but I also had tracheitis. So my trachea, like right deep in my windpipe, I was super inflamed because of the altitude being so dry, all that dry air, and also the breathing the bottled oxygen is really, really dry as well. So everything in here was super inflamed and just like constant coughing. So I spent a really uncomfortable night at the South Col, camp number 4. One of the guys who was leading my summit bit was a guy called Dr. Rob Casserly, who thankfully was a doctor. He'd climbed Everest 8 times or something, and he definitely looked after me. He gave me some drugs and kept an eye on me that night. And then the next day, we slowly retraced our steps all the way to base camp. We left at first light and got there just after dark.
Wow. You made it.
Done. Exhausted. My body was wrecked.
Can you communicate with people when you're on the mountain? Or
high up, it's hard. So on that final summit night in the dark with all that kit, it's hard. But after you get a little bit lower, yeah, absolutely.
And what about things like meals and going to the loo, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so eating's super
right?
important. So it's all about like
fuel up.
freeze-dried ration packs. So you're melting snow and ice, pouring it into like pre-made packets of spaghetti bolognese or curry. It's kind of packed full.
In my pre-read, this is Christmas dinner on the South Pole. This is a quote from you, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick out my favourite freeze-dried meal for the day, spaghetti bolognese, while I'll be dreaming of turkey and roast potatoes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've had a lot of freeze-dried food.
Far too much over the last 10 years.
we'll get to the poles. But you made it down.
Made it down.
And what happened after that? Like, were you down because you'd done this thing, and because people talk about the post-event blues as
for sure.
You know,
like initially it was great, and we got back to Kathmandu, and our little team had a lot of fun eating food.
Wine,
which was great, drinking, having actual showers and beds. So all the luxuries are great. And then getting home, you definitely get that post-expedition blues. And especially at that point, like I was 21, I've done uni, suddenly completely focused on this trip and raising the money. 12 months of my life just crazy focused on getting this done. And I did it. And then I was home and I was back living at my mum's house in Devon.
What did she think
without
of this?
a job?
Yeah, what did she think of this?
You'd have to ask her.
Because it's like, I'm just imagining being in Devon, and you know, no one really does that in Devon, and you've just gone and done Everest.
Yeah, I think my parents and family have always been super supportive.
Yeah, good.
But it's a lot, for them, especially, I think.
Of course.
Yeah, I don't think she slept for the couple of months I was there.
Yeah.
Especially
Wonder
the first
where
one.
my Mollie is.
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
eating freeze-dried spaghetti in a down suit.
With frozen fingers.
So the crazy gene was fully switched on by this point. Yeah.
The want to do stuff,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. It's probably a crazy gene. But
Yeah.
And then did you go back to Everest before you did your Antarctica trip?
Yeah. So the first time was 2012. Then 2017 was the North Side.
What drew you back?
I moved to London for a bit, and then I eventually moved to Scotland, so to Edinburgh, and I've been there for the last 10 years. And just getting more into the outdoor world, the outdoor community.
Mm-hmm. Had Ocean Vertical started in 2017?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't join it until 2021.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah,
Got it.
2019?
Got it.
2018. I think it was 2018.
Got it.
I should know that.
Got it.
So yeah, I moved to Scotland, and then the North Side had always been in my mind. So when I wrote my dissertation, half the guys had done the South Side, half had done the North Side. Really different experiences. The sides of the mountain are very different. The South Side, you're in Nepal the whole time, and it's a bit chaotic with all the people there and all sorts going on. The North Side is in Tibet, and it's colder, it's windier, much more technical climb, but much more kind of a remote feeling to it. Less people, way less people, maybe a third of the people on that side of the mountain.
Has it got increasingly busy, or has it kind of leveled off now, the south and the north?
I think the north is still much quieter. Okay. Absolutely.
And the south is more busy?
The south is still pretty crazy. Yeah.
It's mad, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If I was going to go back, I'd go back to the north.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
Even though it's harder?
Yeah.
More dangerous?
Yeah, for sure.
Are you going to go back?
No. Absolutely not.
You've done that now. And
Yeah.
Okay.
Take that off.
So the north side then, did you go with the same people?
So yeah, it was always kind of in my head to maybe go and see it.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I kind of learn about it and saw pictures of it, I kind of knew that, I don't know, I spent so long thinking and studying Everest. I kind of felt like I'd only experienced half of it.
Right.
And that experience is as amazing as it was
Right.
to get there and get to the top. There was also a hell of a lot of suffering and getting so sick on the way down, and the crowds and the people. I didn't feel like I did it in a particularly good style.
Okay.
And it wasn't quite what I kind of maybe thought it was going to be like, or what I wanted from this mountain. Whereas the north side,
sort of majestic,
yeah,
euphoric
maybe.
experience. Yeah.
Maybe I wanted to enjoy it more.
Yep.
Which is a bit weird because I should never enjoy it, but I guess I thought the north side. And so I decided to push for the north side. Went through the whole process of getting funding again. This time, still super, super hard. Made it a little bit easier by the fact I was going for a record. So I worked out that if I did both sides, I would be the first English woman to climb Everest from the north and the south side. And I'd also be the youngest woman in the world at the time. I was going to be 26 to climb the north and south side. So having that kind of unique selling point, aim thing. Yeah. So having those kind of aims makes fundraising a tiny bit easier.
Are you a world record holder?
Yeah.
Are you actually?
Yeah, and for Antarctica as well. But so I'm the first woman to climb Everest, first English woman from the north to south side. And then I was the youngest, but another girl's done it now. But at the time I was.
Still, that's insane. I didn't realise this.
Yeah.
Wow. Didn't realise you were so accomplished in the books and stuff. Amazing. Well, it's an honour to have you. It's such a pleasure.
So that's why I was here. No, but like it's.
What did we do together first? Ben Leddy.
Yeah. We didn't even get to the top.
We didn't make it to the top of Ben Leddy.
We went to the Green Welly.
World record Everest mountaineer failed to summit Ben Leddy. How did that happen? Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, no, the records are good because they
also just
help with
just for the
sponsorship.
listener.
Yeah.
I'm laughing so much now. There was a guy who came down and was like, "You better make sure you've got your head torch." Some older guy, and everyone was like, "Okay."
There's always those people in Scotland, isn't
Really
there?
funny.
Yeah.
That was really funny. So, you decided you were going to do the north.
Yeah. So I had the records, which are, they're great for gaining traction on these trips, gaining publicity, and hopefully convincing sponsors. And that's what they're for. I don't really care about them. I wanted to see the North Side and experience it.
But this helped get
But
traction.
you have to get money. About 50 grand. I
Push.
needed. So huge amount
More
of money.
expensive.
More
Why
expensive.
more expensive?
For sure.
The North is...
The North is maybe a little bit more expensive, but also the way in which I wanted to do it. So
Right.
I wanted to do it with a really small team. And one of my good friends is called John Gupta, and he's a UK mountain guide. And I climbed on another peak with him and climbed with him in Scotland a wee bit. But I knew I wanted to climb with him and we were going to have a great time. He'd done the South Side, he'd not done the North Side.
I mean, you are a very accomplished mountaineer. Do people like John and yourself still get a lot of enjoyment from the Scottish Munros?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's all sorts of hard stuff you can do in Scotland, but also just having nice days in Scotland is so good.
Too good.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good to know. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of employ John to be the guide and run the logistics of the trip. So I raised, the 50 grand for that. So it was me and John, and then we had Lakpa was back again, Lakpa Andrew Sherpa, which was awesome to have him with us. And then we had another Nepalese guide called Leela Tamang. So 4 of us, which was
compact.
great. It was compact, and it meant we could be flexible and we could be quick. And when the weather was good, we could go. And if the weather wasn't good or one of us wasn't feeling good, we could just kind of chill out a little bit. So flexibility with a small team was amazing. Raised all the money in the end, trained, got ourselves there to Tibet, which was cool. Always wanted to go to Tibet, and it was amazing. Like, mountains were just mind-blowing. And you drive to base camp.
Do you?
So on the south side, you walk in. On the north side, you drive.
Wow.
You leave the capital, Lhasa, and 4 or 5 days later, you're dropped off literally outside your tent at base camp. And the challenging thing about the north side, and what I definitely picked up in my dissertation, is the psychological pressure of it. So on the south side, Everest in the summit and the mountain is kind of hidden from view. It's behind the west shoulder, and you don't really see the true summit until you're kind of much higher on the mountain. Whereas on the north side, it's just there. I'll show you some pictures, but we'll Google it, because it's just, the whole mountain is just there, and you're sat at the bottom of it, and the whole of Everest is just in front of you.
And it's so big.
It's so big, and base camp is 5,500 meters, and you feel crap. You've got a headache, you feel sick, you're at that altitude, and you look up at this mountain, you think, how the hell am I going to climb all the way up there when I feel this bad? So it's intimidating, and you see...
We're getting it on the screen.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so the north side. So that's just there. And you see it when
It does look beautiful, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. And some days it's covered
All
in
the
cloud.
flags and stuff,
then the cloud kind of clears and it's just white because it's been snowing up there so much. And you see, when it's really windy, you see kind of plumes of spindrift coming off the top. It looks like the mountain's smoking. And you just see it all in all its different kind of faces and moods. And you see it at night.
Awesome.
And it's awe-inspiring.
It's awesome.
And terrifying.
It looks absolutely awesome.
Yeah. And that ridge line you can see on the left-hand side is the northeast ridge.
Okay.
And that's the main route to the top of Everest, skirting past the north face. And it's epic and it's technical, much more technical than the south side.
When you say technical, what does that mean for the listener?
So much more rock climbing sections.
Right.
So along the northeast ridge, you've got the first, second and third step to get over. Big rock sections. On the south side, it's just really the Hillary step is the only kind of crux technical bit.
When you say rock climbing, what happens when you're that high up? Do you have to have an axe and you sort of bits in? Or?
So it's all got fixed ropes on it, which are much more helpful.
Who fixed the ropes? Who are these people?
Usually a team of Sherpas, rope fixing Sherpas who are just amazingly skilled, and they'll fix them every season, days or a week or so before the main climbing party gets up there.
Wow.
Which is incredible, absolutely.
This is crazy.
Yep.
So they do it every year. It's not just like they're there forever.
Because they get battered in the winter and with the jet stream and all that kind of thing.
Has anyone done Everest in the winter? Probably some crazies.
Don't ask me that because I don't.
You don't know,
know.
yeah.
It must.
Maybe there's some crazy.
I don't know
crazies.
because I'm not sure.
We'll look it up. We'll look it up.
We'll look it up.
But it looks amazing. It looks really amazing.
And then also the kind of technicality comes from at points it's really narrow on that ridgeline, so just enough like 1 foot in front of the other, drops everywhere, and you've got to be on it the whole time you climb. You've got to be on it.
Talk us through that trip then. You got off top of the 3 levels.
Yep. So
And
again, it was another 6 weeks of acclimatizing,
Okay, same
slowly going up and
story,
down. And then that summit night came, and the whole trip was like incredible. I enjoyed it so much more than the south side. It was stunning. It felt remote. It felt wild, and it really felt like you're climbing Everest. This side of the mountain was the original like side that those British teams were trying to climb in the 1920s. Wow. So the stories of like Mallory and Irvine getting somewhere near the top, and then nobody really knows if they summited or not.
No one knows what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
It's known that they got up over the first step. So you could kind of think about that as you were climbing.
Wow.
Again, it was pitch black, nighttime.
They were there somewhere, maybe.
Yeah, and you left at 8 p.m. again, followed your head torch up over the first step.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about the human landmarks.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
So on the south side, the first side I didn't see any bodies. On the north side, on that summit night, I saw 5.
Goodness me.
And the first one...
What's it like? It's like they're just there?
Well, the first one, I mean, it's harrowing, absolutely. The first one I saw was in the nighttime, so before the summit, on the way up, just after the third step. So you've got up over these steps. The idea of bringing a body down across them is dangerous and pretty incomprehensible to me. Bodies, they get frozen, they get, they're heavy, really, really heavy. And these rock steps are challenging. So you need a team of people and it will put them in danger. So a lot of the time, if it's higher on the mountain on the left, there was the one that was just above the third step. So we were getting closer and closer to the summit. We were like within kind of touching distance, and I saw this guy. And I was on the rope coming up here, and he was maybe a meter and a half from me. And he was facing down the slope. And at some kind of time in his last few hours, he'd lost his gloves. And it was kind of like his hands were reaching out towards me. And they were so pale. They were like as white as the snow that they were resting on. And I literally looked at this guy, this body, for less than a second. And I saw it. I took the whole scene in. I turned away and I moved as fast as I could to get away from him.
Gosh.
And in my head, because you're so kind of hypoxic and you're so focused on survival, I guess, looking after yourself, I didn't really think of him as a person at the time. I just thought of him as this thing I needed to get away from, something negative and bad that I had to get away from. And I didn't think about who he was or who he'd left behind or the last person he touched with those hands. I just got away from him. And I thought about that a lot because it's a weird way to react to seeing a body. Like if you saw it at home or here in Glasgow, you'd ruin your week, your month. You'd think about it for a long time. There'd be a lot of trauma there. But actually, I think my body or my mind was kind of reacting how it needed to. If I'd stopped and thought about his family or who he was, I would have got emotional. And that emotion would have slowed me down, and it would have, more importantly, kind of made everything more dangerous in my situation that I was in. So I got away from him, carried on. But then on the way down, I saw 4 more bodies on the way down. Further away and not quite as graphic, but yeah.
Wow. Are they like known landmarks? Or?
There is the one that I didn't actually see called Green Boots.
Yep.
And that's on the north side. And he's just his boots sticking out. He's got green boots on. And people do use that as a landmark to know where they are. I didn't see him. I don't know if there was too much snow there that year or maybe he's gone now. I'm not sure.
It's just crazy, isn't it, that there's people there.
Yeah.
And they were all motivated people who wanted to do something amazing and something happened.
Yeah. And the kind of scary thing about the guy I saw just there was he looked like us. He looked like John. He looked like Lilo. He looked like Lakpa. He looked like me.
Because he was still fully clothed.
Same outfit, yeah.
He just got too cold, or does anyone know?
I'm not sure.
Fair enough.
No idea.
No one knows.
And I don't think he died that season. Maybe the year before that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So yeah.
So coming to the psychology then of all of this, like, did you learn a lot about yourself climbing these mountains?
Yeah.
Like how to be resilient and what matters and what doesn't. Like,
for sure. Yeah. So I think I'm definitely a different person than when I did the first side. Before that, I always had this self-belief, but I never had the kind of confidence to tell anyone about it. I had real little self-confidence growing up. I was super shy. And at school, I would never put my hand up. If teachers asked me a question, I'd just have this thing where I just go bright red, get super embarrassed. I would never express myself or talk about anything really. And even at uni, like giving presentations to 5 people was terrifying. So I'm a very different person. Last week I gave a presentation in Barcelona to 600 people in this massive auditorium.
What did you talk about?
Just all this kind of crap,
stuff,
you know, all this expedition stuff.
We're going to have you into our office. It'll be less grand, but still we are.
Nice.
It'll be amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, if you're keen. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Talk about all this and the mindset. Cause I often describe to our team that we're trying to climb a big mountain together.
Yeah.
And it's really, really, really hard. Like what we're trying to do technically at our company is so hard.
Yeah.
And there's always an issue. We're trying to do something that no one else has ever done before, to be honest. So we kind of have to have that nothing is impossible, just keep going mindset
Yep.
every day.
And that resilience to have setbacks and
Keep
come
going.
back from them stronger.
And keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have setbacks in your prep and on the mountains?
Yeah, all the time. A lot with the funding. Trying to get the money together is hard. And I wanted to go the first time in 2016, and I had to get all to the end, didn't get any money, so I had to cancel that and try again for the next year. And there's adversity, there's setbacks. But that's kind of where resilience grows from, and it's all about how we respond to setbacks is where resilience grows. And I don't want to fast forward too much, but when I got to Antarctica, that was a million times harder psychologically than anything I'd done before.
Right.
But during all those years of climbing Everest on the south side, the north side, all the bits and
Started
stuff
to
I did
build
in
up.
between, that resilience just grew and grew. So when I was 21, there's no way I could have spent 58 days alone in Antarctica. But because I'd spent the last almost 10 years pushing myself, being outside of my comfort zone, and responding in a positive way to the adversity I felt. So not blaming it on the outside world, but taking that kind of, it's called like a locus of control. So saying that I achieved because of these steps that I did, or these things didn't go wrong because I could have done this better. So not blaming the outside world, but looking internally about my own control over my destiny and what I do. And I think that built up a lot of resilience over the years. And it helped get through the north side and then later on in Antarctica.
So you'd broken a world record. What then in your mind was like, okay, I want to do something is it even harder? Was Antarctica harder?
Yeah, so there's always I'm not I don't get back from trip and okay, what's next? Let's go.
Right.
It's all
Just
there's chill
organically
time.
happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I have to be super inspired by a place, and it has to get under my skin, and I have to want to see it and experience it. And Everest did that through the dissertation. I did both sides, and I was done with it, pleased with everything that happened. But there was always one place that was in the back of my mind. And it was this vast frozen continent. I used to have a housemate. I worked with him in London, then I lived with him in Edinburgh. And he did a bit of work with the British Antarctic Survey. He was a glaciologist. So he did field research down there as he was doing his PhD and would come back with incredible photos and videos of Antarctica.
Wow.
And I knew I wanted to just experience it in some capacity. I wanted to be there surrounded by nothingness, by white and snow and wind, and just kind of feel this continent that nobody's settled on it, nobody's civilizations have lived there. It's a really interesting, special place. The world's biggest desert, because it's so dry.
Wow.
Yeah, even though it's covered in frozen water.
Yeah.
And then I was looking into expeditions that I could do. Again, it's all about money and getting sponsorship. So
Are you getting better at fundraising, do you think?
yeah, I think you always get a bit better at these things, but it's not fun. And it's still challenging, even after both sides of Everest. And I found a trip I wanted to do skiing from the edge of the continent to the South Pole. 700 miles, 1,100 kilometers. And if I did it solo, so no teammates, no guides, I would be the youngest woman to do it at the age of 29 now. So I had my USP, and that's what I could use to go out and try and find the 75 odd grand
I like the USP
needed.
phrase.
Yeah,
It's the same, right?
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need it. But the money was bigger, 75 grand.
Wow.
And it was, unbelievably hard again.
Yeah, this sounds crazy now because you're 700 miles on your own,
Yeah.
in your own thoughts.
Yeah.
How many days did it take?
58 in the end.
58 days on your own. You couldn't speak to anybody.
Yeah.
You had a walkie-talkie.
I had, like a sat phone, which was good for that. And I had to call in every night. So I had a conversation with somebody every day. But yeah, it was psychological, that expedition.
Were you fitter for that than Everest, do you think? Or is it sort of...
Yeah, I was stronger actually. I had a really good
cool with
strength
that.
program with it. I had a really good trainer at a gym in Edinburgh, and he got me really strong. Mostly because you're pulling your sled. So all of your supplies are in your sled behind you. Turns out it's uphill because you go from the coast to the South Pole. So sea level to about 2,800 meters.
Wow.
It's like a gradual hill for 2 months.
Wow.
And you're pulling the sled. And my sled was 105 kilos at the start.
Wow. It's
So
big.
really, really heavy. Yep.
big.
So I had to be strong. Everything had to be strong. Posterior train,
Yeah.
everything, core, legs. So I was definitely stronger. But during the 58 days, I got really fit.
What do you think about when you're over there on your own? Seriously. You talk to yourself, sing.
So it's psychological.
It's a long time to be on your own, right?
Yeah. And you can't really train for it. Like you can train physically. I got strong. I pulled tires up down the beach, but it's really hard to find actual solitude anywhere, even in the UK. You could probably go off into the Highlands and maybe get a week or so, but there'll be people around and you have some sort of contact. I spent a lot of time in Norway in a place called the Hardangervidda, training there, which is this big frozen plateau. It's absolutely stunning. But even there, I was bumping into people. There were people in the distance. So that kind of true solitude of feeling and being alone is hard to find. Wow. And what did I think about? It varied day on day. The expedition actually started really badly.
Oh, what happened?
Because when I got dropped off at Hokeley's Inlet, the pilots flew off into the distance. I began the trip, and after the first couple of hours, I hit the first kind of incline as I came from the sea ice onto the land mass of the continent.
And you were just map and compassing it, or did you have a digital nav?
GPS, yeah.
Digital
and then
nav,
you get your bearings from that and then put it into your compass. And your compass is on like a chest mount in front of you. So you can hold your ski paws and you just keep the line in the box the whole way.
Okay, wow.
But as I kind of hit that first hill, I looked behind me and saw these kind of clouds coming over the horizon.
Uh-oh.
And as they did, they brought really strong winds. And in Antarctica, the wind blows from the inside of almost always blows from the inside of the continent outwards. So if you're heading to the middle, to the South Pole,
the headwind.
Yeah, it's a headwind every day. So the winds increased. That night I pitched my tent. It took ages in strong winds. The next morning I woke super early because my whole tent was just like violently shaking in what was a huge storm. And I looked outside, it was complete whiteout. So I'm sure you've had whiteouts in the mountains. I guess for people that don't know, it's when left looks the same as right, up looks the same as down. People say it's like being inside a ping pong ball. Just real like disorientatingness of it all.
Yeah.
So this huge storm had hit and the winds were gusting 30 knots, 35, 40 knots. And I had to push on and I had to try and ski that first day. I had to put my tent down, which is the hardest thing and the scariest thing. Yeah, because it can blow away, and that's really your only shelter from anything out there. So put the tent down, skied a few hours, and in the end,
there's nothing, right? It's just ice,
just snow. Yeah, snow and
Ice
hills
and
big on that kind of coastal side of it at the beginning of the trip. But there's big lumps of snow, and then there's big patches of ice where it's wind scorched.
no bothies.
No bothies, unfortunately. No nothing. No polar bears. Absolutely no polar bears. No penguins.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Polar bears are serious.
Yeah. Luckily, there were a few.
They will find you.
Few thousand miles away. And that storm actually stuck on me for the first 8 days of the trip. So it was whiteout conditions
The whole time?
And the winds got to up to like gusting 50 knots, which
Wow.
is crazy.
You can hardly move then.
Yeah, as it's coming in the headwind, and with that you get the wind chill. So ambient temperature at the time maybe minus 15, minus 20,
so
but with the wind
cold.
chill minus 45.
It's so cold.
It really gets you.
Colder than Everest?
Yeah, with that wind chill, yeah.
So what do you wear then in Antarctica? Down suit again?
Well, actually less stuff.
Because you're moving.
Because you're moving. So on Everest, you're slowly, so slow every single step. But there, your only real way to generate heat is through movement, and you want to be moving constantly. So one of my big sponsors, which was awesome for Antarctica, was Gore-Tex. And together with Mountain Equipment, we designed like some new Gore-Tex salopettes and jacket with a big fur ruff to protect my face. And under that, mid layers and base layers, lots of merino wool. So it was a really thin, windproof layer, but just moving all the time to generate that heat.
What happens if you get injured? Problem.
Well, you need to stop, pitch your tent. You've got a big down jacket in your bag. You've got down sleeping bags.
Get warm.
But you need to get your tent up as quick.
So you were in a whiteout for like 8 days, couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
That must have been hard mentally.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And does this bring me now to the book? Breathe?
Yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah, we can, absolutely.
So how does it tie in then to your book? Because that must have been a really hard point in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this book that I'm writing at the moment, hopefully coming out spring 2025. So a bit of time to get out and get it done. But it's kind of like a psychological analysis of adventure. And the book is separated into 7 different themes. And it's kind of like 7 lessons from the edge of the world.
Wow.
And one is about fear, and one is about resilience, and one is about self-belief. The Antarctic sections are all about, the big one is resilience for getting through that storm. One is about isolation, how to spend that amount of time by yourself. So I like look into my own story. I bring in psychological research that kind of pushes the story in different ways. And I also interview a few other adventurers and learn about how they relate to that theme in different environments. If it's rowing across oceans, if it's swimming, if it's...
And there's common parallels between all these people?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What are they, like, in summary, without delving into the good stuff that's going in your book.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I haven't finished writing it yet. But really, I mean, it's all interesting. And everyone has their own kind of personal journey. And it depends on the situation and the environment that you're in. But it is, it's that self-belief. It's really believing that you can do it. It's learning how to control fear. It's dealing with isolation in whatever way you do. And I guess what I've learned from everything is that it really is all in our head.
Everything's in the head.
Yeah, really is. Like
what tools could you, like, have you got a toolkit? A little bit? Like, a mental toolkit?
I've developed it and developing it. I guess one that I speak about a lot in the book and really helped me in Antarctica is the process of using positive affirmations. So when I finally came out of the storm, it was day 9. I was super behind schedule. I'd been battered by the storm. Physically, I was okay, but I was really, it'd been traumatic the first 9 days of the trip. And my head was in a bad place. And on other expeditions, I've always found it easy to like make myself feel better. There's other people around you, usually really fun people that you can laugh about crappy situations with. I think it's quite a British thing to do. If something's a bit crap, you can make a joke about it and it gets better.
This is great, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. People to give you a hug, people to make decisions with is also quite crucial. But actually, when I came through the storm, it was all just sat on my shoulders. And with that, I kind of found a big kind of black cloud kind of came over me and I couldn't shift it. And I've never really
When you say black cloud, like negative thoughts?
Super negative thoughts, unbelievably negative. And I've never felt that before. Like you have bits of it, but they're easy to bat away usually. But there, it just kind of consumed me. And it was thoughts like, what on earth are you doing here? Like, how are you ever going to make it another 650 miles to the South Pole? Things like, is it your ego that's led you down here? Like, what makes you think you can actually achieve this? Like, you're a 29-year-old 5'4" girl. What have you possibly got to make you special to get down there? So just, swamped. And every step you take, it's harder. And every hill you hit, it gets harder and harder. And it's almost like your mind is bullying you and it's pushing you in the corner and trying to derail everything. One night I was thinking what I could do. And the idea of positive affirmations kind of came to me.
Right.
I have, when I did a TED Talk a few years ago in Glasgow, and one of the guys that I was doing it alongside that day, his was all about positive affirmations. And at the time I was kind of thinking, this is awesome and it's worked for him, but there's no way I could stand there in the mirror and be like, you're great, you can do this. Like, that's not for me. But in my kind of desperate hour of need in Antarctica, I came up with 3 phrases that I had to use. And I would say them out loud over and over again. And in the end, I'd shout them to Antarctica. And the shift in my mindset was monumental, absolutely incredible.
Wow.
I suddenly felt like myself again. I suddenly made good decisions.
Power of the mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
What were they? Can you tell us?
Yeah, am I allowed to swear?
Of course.
Okay, of course.
Yeah,
encouraged.
You can swear, yeah.
So the first one was really simple,
Yeah.
and it was just to say, I am strong. So at that point, I never felt weaker. Mentally, physically, I just felt like a tiny, shriveled, weak thing. So saying, I am strong, that's how I needed to feel, that's how I wanted to feel. The second was to say, I'm inspiring people. And that felt important because the whole trip was too hard just to be about me and my own achievement. And I knew so many people were following it back home, school groups, whoever. I had to be doing it for them. And the third one was the rude one, but the most effective. And it's not how I was feeling, but it's how I needed to feel. Mm-hmm. And I would say, I am a fucking badass, as loud as I possibly could. And I would shout it as loud as I could to Antarctica.
It's true.
But it's how I needed to be to reach the South Pole.
Where did they come from? They just appeared in your mind?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Just one night.
Some download and...
Yeah. And it was incredible.
It got you through.
Yeah. And the black cloud would come back and I would shout it at them. And after maybe 2 or 3 days of really kind of practicing this, I was myself again.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Do you use affirmations now in your life?
I've tried.
I mean, I'm not saying you wake up in the morning and go, I am a fucking badass.
I should. I haven't needed them since then.
Right.
And at times I think maybe I should, but it feels different here. But they are good. And in the book, in Breathe, I've been looking at the research behind it. And it's there. It's absolutely there. We can rewire our brain to think about the good things. I think we're kind of preset to always be focusing on the negative side of things, reacting to situations negatively, worrying, having anxiety. But we can rewire that, and we are all fucking badasses. Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. Seriously, glass half full.
Absolutely.
Glass half full always. You can create your destiny.
Absolutely.
If you want it badly enough, and you can, maybe through affirmations or through writing something down, just say it.
And that's the way to do it. You can either, if you don't have that confidence, which I don't have here, unless I'm on my own in Antarctica, you can write them on a note, put them on your mirror, so you just see them every morning, you just glance at them, and it slowly gets into your mindset.
I've got one that I say.
Awesome.
Each and every day, I'm becoming more successful in every way.
Nice. Amazing.
It's on my whiteboards.
Great.
I wake up and I say that.
Great.
And success is all-encompassing. It's your happiness, it's relationships, it's physical fitness, and it's just a nice way to start the day.
Yeah, and it's true. And I think it's probably true for everyone. Each day we're growing, we're learning.
Getting better.
Becoming more resilient, becoming more successful. Yeah, nice.
Now, you've done all this amazingly hard stuff. Oh, we've not finished Antarctica. Sorry.
Oh, did I make it? Oh.
Did you make it?
No. Yeah, I did.
You made it.
Yeah, I made it.
You made it.
Lots of
the affirmations got you through.
Got me through that kind of black cloud bit. Lots more stuff happened. We could spend hours talking about it. But yeah, got there eventually.
Some of the highlights and lowlights. I recall you telling me you got some crazy injury where like your have I got this right? Your flesh started eating itself or something like that. No, I got this wrong.
Eating itself.
I've got it wrong.
Like a parasite.
No, I'll tell you what. I know what it was. It's the chafing is bad.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's the chafing. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no eating.
No flesh eating.
No flesh eating. Antarctic aliens. So yeah, I got a little bit of what's called polar thigh. So,
that's what you told me about. Polar thigh.
It's a cold injury that's only really seen in polar regions and especially Antarctica. And it's a mix of cold and chafing. And some people get it horrifically badly. There was a girl also there when I was down there who's horrific. She had to have skin grafts and stuff afterwards. Oof. I got just a tiny bit on my thigh. So yeah, that was a low point. And it had to be managed as I was skiing along. Not letting it get affected was really important. Just the weather in general was really hard.
Brutal.
The loneliness, getting through every single day and becoming disciplined. The highlights were, it's just an incredible place. Christmas Day by myself was amazing. Then just the kind of the naturalness of it all. So I think
it was amazing. Why? Did you give yourself presents?
A little bit. I had like a 2-hour light-in, and then it was just a cool place to spend Christmas.
Right.
I don't think I want to spend it again on my own, but it was cool to be there. Very for
unique.
That. Yeah.
Very unique.
And then the day I'll never ever forget, I think it was day 53, so I was close. And I woke up that day and something felt different.
Right.
And I couldn't work out for a long time. And I put my tent down and I began skiing. And then after a while, I had my break. So I was regimented. I skied for an hour and a half, stopped for 10 minutes, skied for an hour and a half, over and over again. Stopped for my first 10-minute break, had a drink, had something to eat. And then I realised there was something missing. And it wasn't even something that was missing. It was something that was present. And what was present was silence, this kind of huge, deafening silence. Because every single day there'd be noise. It's always windy. The wind's always blowing strong at you. Sometimes a light caress, sometimes it's gale force and crazy. There's noise of your skis scraping along, your sled scraping along, your Gore-Tex making noises. But when I sat there, it was all missing. There was absolutely not a breath of wind. And in the wake of leaving that wind, there was just this kind of deafening silence that just encompassed me from every single angle. And I actually don't think there's silence like that anywhere else in the world. You don't find that level of quiet. Like in Scotland, you might be on your own in the Highlands, but there's a little stream running. Yep. There's a bird in the distance. There's something. Yep. But this just felt like a huge presence around me of just deafening nothingness.
Of just deafening.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I just sat on the sled. I needed to be there for 10 minutes. So I was there for like half an hour, just kind of absorbing it all.
Like a meditation?
Yeah, it felt like that.
As quiet as it gets.
Yeah, I think it might be. Then I began skiing and scraping my skis along again. And then the wind started coming back.
Now, when you make it to the end, do you get a heli lift?
Yeah, you get a plane. Yeah. So it's all...
Plane?
Plane, yeah. So there's no helicopters in Antarctica, but there's lots of different planes.
This is cool.
So yeah, got to the end, day 50. It was actually I always get it a little bit wrong. I got my maths wrong when I was down there, but it's actually something like 57 days and 18 hours or something was the whole trip.
And was that the record?
There was no record. It was quite slow actually for people doing it. But the record I got was becoming the youngest woman to do it solo.
That's right.
Yeah.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Now, what does someone who's done so much do after doing so much? You're running a business, you're writing a book. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about your business and the books you've written and what you're writing in the future?
Yeah, for sure. So after Antarctica, everything else is just normal. Like, it's normal life. I do stuff that most people do, I think. Normally.
Kind of.
But then work-wise, yeah. So in 2021, I joined a company called Ocean Vertical, and I came on as like a part owner and director. And we're an ethical adventure company based in Dunbar in East Lothian, so right on the beach near Belhaven Bay. And we run adventures all over Scotland from the ocean. That's the ocean part of it. So it's surfing, coasteering, paddleboarding. And the vertical part is being in the mountains, in the highlands, in winter, in summer, multi-day expeditions. And now we've just started doing overseas trips as well.
Yeah.
So last year we led our first expedition to the Himalayas, to Nepal. 12 amazing clients joined us and we trekked for 2 weeks.
And what happened then on the trip?
Oh, it's just epic. Yeah, I'm trying to convince you to come.
I know you are, yeah.
And I think I might be successful.
I'm keen, yeah, I'm keen.
Yeah.
So what it's a cool group of people,
Yep.
big days.
Yeah, like, you're at altitude. So the highest we got on that trip was 4,500 meters, which is high. It's almost as high as Mont Blanc. So it's slow days. It's slow walking, but surrounded by absolute stunningness. You've got 8,000 meter peaks, 7,000 meter peaks. There's this beautiful mountain called Fishtail, which is right in front of us the whole time. You wake up in the morning and see it. You go to bed and it's there in all the stars.
Wow.
The route we do is called the Mardi Himal Trek, and it's quite new, and you're on a ridgeline for most of the way, so you can kind of just see everything around you.
And where do you stay? In huts or a camp?
Yeah, so in tea houses. So along the way, there's these kind of basic accommodations,
Someone's told
but
me
nice.
about this, yeah.
And they were like family run.
Actually, I tell you who told me about
Yeah.
it. It's the amazing guy, Ian Wally, who does the branding for Inside Matters, number 2 Antibiotics. He told me I should do a Nepal tea house walk.
Okay.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And you should do it with me and Stevie.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm keen. What do you eat in these?
The kind of staple of Nepal is dal bhat.
What is that?
So dal and rice. You'd actually love the
I
diet.
think I would like that.
Yeah.
It's just like
It's
really, high
really-
fiber goodness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's all a lot of vegetarian stuff, all pretty healthy. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, and in Nepal, that's what they eat twice a day as their kind of staple. That's basically what most people eat.
Dal and rice.
Dal and rice.
Wow.
And little bits of spices and all sorts with
Yeah,
it.
that sounds really, really good.
You'd
I'm
love
in.
it.
I'm in. Sign me up.
Sign me for
I'm
the
going to
dal.
Nepal. It'd be really lovely to see a mountain that big as well.
It will blow
I think the
your
biggest
mind.
I've seen is the Matterhorn,
Yeah.
which looks unbelievable,
Yeah.
by the way.
And this mountain, the Fishtail Mountain, is a bit like that, but like twice the height. No, not quite twice, but a bit more.
Oh, here it is.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
Look at that. When I saw the
It's good,
Matterhorn
right?
for the first time, I almost cried when I saw the Matterhorn for the first time. This was last summer.
Amazing.
I just wasn't, you go to Zermatt and I saw photos, but when I saw it, I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's so much bigger than I thought, and it's got its own little microclimate at the top, and it's just so beautiful, and it was like glistening, and I just thought, wow, I need to get up there.
And I love that emotional reaction because
It
that's
was
what it is.
Unbelievable.
And I think that's why people climb mountains and why people go to these places for that level of awe and wonder that these lumps of rock and ice kind of instill in us.
Yeah. Now, Mollie, we are actually very unfortunately
We're there.
at time,
All good.
and it's zoomed by.
We've covered a lot, haven't we?
So we have covered a lot. Now, thank you very much. If people would like to learn more about you, follow your journey,
Yeah.
where do they go?
Well, Instagram is a good place. So I'm at Mollie J. Hughes. And then I've got a website, molliehughes.co.uk. And Ocean Vertical. Check that out, oceanvertical.com.
For adventures in Scotland.
For Adventures in Scotland and Nepal.
And Nepal,
Yeah.
Amazing.
So yeah,
Mollie, thank you so much.
pleasure.
Absolute pleasure.
thanks for having me.
Thank you.